this table is going to be final dimensions 48 inches by 24. It's a coffee table, but left an inch on this side and an inch on that side of that slab. So we have a little bit of wiggle room when we're trimming it at the end. In addition to that, 48 inches is right here, but we're pouring additional because one leg off the coffee table is going to be a waterfall. So we're going to pour it all together, let it cure, and then when it gets down to the finishing point, we'll miter the leg off, tilt it down, it'll be a waterfall leg, it continues. So it'll be almost one continuous pour, but I prefer to do it this way rather than to pour it all at once, because we can sure get all the bubbles out, and it'll look good when it's all finished. It's going to be on the smaller side of the river. Looking for 26 inches. Some of these are coming a little more. Make sure these lined up. I already trimmed it the other day, so I know where my dimensions are. I know how the river, you can see that it kind of flows like a river. You know, the slab was originally something like that, and you put them together. So you just have to cut them where you want that river to kind of line up, where these edges flow more like a natural river. That's what we've got here. Right there is about the point where they line up. Now we just gotta make sure, let's see, it's 27. Let's move this in a little bit. It's gonna be a smaller river. I mean, it's not a very wide table. It's just a coffee table. This actually needs to come out a little bit. 26. 26. Okay, so now we've got it lined up. That's basically how it's going to be when we pour the epoxy. It's going to be a completely transparent epoxy. Customer wanted that more natural look on it, so we didn't remove all the material off the live edge. We removed all the bark and all the loose debris, but we left on that paper thin bark, so it's got more of those black, brown features compared to what it would look like down here. You can see that's more what it would look like if we removed all of the bark. It'd be more of this, you know, white, tan, maple look. So we left that on there, and I think it's going to look really good, especially with the completely transparent river. It's just going to be crystal clear. Okay, so next step is to pin this down so it doesn't move when we pour our epoxy. So we'll get the blocks and the beams out.
Spray all these down. No dust is on there for everything. Spray everything down that comes into the room.
Yeah, we'll clean out the room. You know, this dust is flowing off, it's going to end up on the floor, it's going to end up everywhere, but yeah, we'll blow this whole room out, evacuate it from the dust before we do the epoxy. Okay, before we put these beams down, let's make sure we're centered. Once we put this down, it's not moving.
It is there for several weeks.
So 70, 35, yeah, that's good. Double check, I always double check. So we'll get off a little bit. Now we've already cut our dams, our epoxy dams to the right size. So go ahead and put that one down there. Put this one here. And now we can push these slabs out to match the edge of these dams, because we know they're exactly 26 inches. So we'll slide it a little bit. How's yours looking?
Is yours looking flush, like they're at the same level?
Yeah, I'm looking good down here.
Cool.
Let's go ahead and get the blocks down. And we're gonna put one right in the center. And we'll put the other ones on the ends. Actually, I think I want to run these all the way out to this end right here. So we can get as far back on the epoxy floor, able to any debris or bubbles out. And let's put them kind of in the center of the slabs, since we're only using one block. If it was any wider than this, I'd use 2 blocks like that. But these are pretty narrow slabs. We can get away with using 1 block if we just put it in the center. That would be good.
All center.
Yeah, get a little bit closer to that epoxy beam. About 1 inch is what we're looking for. Okay, let's get the beams. Go ahead and start hammering across. Start down here. Want to move that. These beams are cut to the size of the table, so as long as we got them out to the edge, we'll be able to clamp them down. Let's do the next one. This will stabilize the slabs, and we'll get zero movement once we pour the epoxy. We don't want any movement in the slabs. We don't want to shift, we don't want them to float. We want to keep our seals tight. This being pinned down against the table, the caulking seal that goes on the outside, won't have any stress on it. Okay, let's get the last one. Looking good.
Sweet.
Okay, I'm happy with that.
Sweet. The clamps on?
Yeah, start getting the clamps on.
Put that on there.
Just make it snug.
Alright.
Can't start pressing them down yet because it'll move the other side. And that looks good.
Got it nice and straight on there. Cool.
Good fit.
Mm-hmm.
Make that snug. Just keep it in place.
Cool.
Get that last one right there. Then we'll start tightening them all down. What we're looking for is to make sure that the slabs are laying flat against the table. So you don't need a tremendous amount of pressure, but just enough to keep them from moving. Okay, so we're ready to caulk.
Put a nice bead along the outside edge here that runs along to the inside so we can press it up against there.
Yeah, the unsure no epoxy. I mean, a little bit we'll get in here. We already sealed off these edges. The epoxy we use is very thin, so high viscosity. It will seep into the wood and discolor it, but we sealed this off. Helps prevent that. The silicone caulking will seal the epoxy so it won't come out and it'll hold tight. So yeah, let's go ahead and get that bead on there. Yeah, you don't want any epoxy leaks. This is the kind of work that you double, triple check. One mistake can cost you $1,000 in epoxy sometimes, or even more.
Alrighty, and I'll bring this around to the outside. Got a little bit of, I always do extra touch-ups.
You can always put it on the wood too first instead of on that.
Sweet. And then look at that.
Okay, we'll place the dam at the end of the wood slabs. It's looking good.
Alrighty. And
Create a nice seal. Silicone works very well for that. It's somewhat forgiving. You don't have to be too precise.
sweet. I'm gonna grab a paper towel, wipe some stuff up.
Add an extra bead of caulking, just being extra safe here. Caulking is cheap.
Epoxy is not.
Yeah, epoxy is expensive. Time and materials if it goes wrong. It'll set us back by 3 or 4 days. If we have a leak, we'll have to drain all the epoxy out.
It's a tight squeeze over here.
Seal up every corner, every edge. We're making it watertight. If there's one little crack, one little hole.
Weird angle.
If there's one little crack or one little hole, the epoxy will find it and it'll leak out. And there are a couple ways to stop leaks on epoxy pours, but none of them work very well, and your best option is to start over. And we got this little bar conclusion on the edge, and it's going to be filled in with epoxy. It actually goes all the way through to the other side. So the epoxy will come in from the river, it'll go underneath, and we'll fill it here. We'll have to leave just a little bit of an air gap, allow the air to escape so the epoxy can fill it up. We're gonna use this dam. Just go ahead and silicone that up. Okay. Put a bead right here, a bead right there, and a bead on the bottom. And let's try to make sure we don't get any silicone inside the inclusion the best we can.
We're gonna silicone the very edge of this.
Yeah, we are gonna trim, you know, some excess off of this side, but you know, you want as much of the material on the slab as possible, and that gives us options when we're trimming the final size of the table.
Nice slow beat.
Okay.
And then where's that gonna line up? Alright, so here and here.
Alright. Yeah, and because we're going to leave just a little bit of air gap, we want to put a little bit extra silicone on than we normally would. That looks pretty good.
I'm gonna double check with over here, and that's gonna go right there.
Get both sides covered. And then that'll be sealed off once the dam is placed.
Okay, dragging it in. And so much. Cool.
Okay, we'll add some extra silicone. Even though there's some on the bottom already, some on the inside of the dam.
It's not a very good bead.
Okay, it's looking good. We'll continue to run that bead and seal it off completely. Okay, well, all the silicone is put on the edges. This river table is now sealed up. We can pour the epoxy into the river, knowing that we're not going to lose epoxy outside of all the sealed edges. So we go right up to the dams to be placed in. It'll probably get a little bit underneath the slabs. They're pretty flat. We also have them pinned down, but the epoxy is very thin, so you never know. And all the inclusions have been sealed up and dammed off. It's looking good to go, ready for the epoxy pour.